Let's go back to, because I'm really interested in your relationship to Beefy. So why did you like Beefy's sheepskin coat?
Because I understood that a bit better than I did the Dreads, in terms of my personal experience, and he.
Why was a sheepskin coat important for you? Why did
Well,
that?
it's actually more of a. I think it was more like a market type culture. It certainly was more skinheady. And I had friends who were skinheads, so like black friends. So by the way, you were friends skinheads, but there was two massive gangs in my big estate. One called the Wayside, one called the Abnormals, and they were virtually both not led, but they had the serious players. One of them was always black in both of them. I can tell you who they are, and but they were. Yeah, they like dog godfather type figures to us kids. Anyway, they weren't gangsters or anything. And then Beefy was there's a violence in Beefy against the oppression. Just feels more. I related to it a bit more. I didn't speak patois at all. My old man obviously did, and all his friends. So I identified it more. But I identified with. They both were saying exactly the same thing in terms of how there was something being done to me that I didn't like.
So what? It's like Beefy's anger that you could identify with. Why?
The anger, absolute anger. There's things like I'm not changing the subject, but I mean Mel Smith almost was right in his portrayal, because most people knew Mel Smith as being on the right side of politics. And suddenly it was quite strange to sort of see how racist this guy was, who didn't immediately appear to be racist as well in the film. But that actually was normal. And then Beefy.
Normal in what way? Kind of.
People would be casually racist, who I don't think a lot of them knew they were. They were being they were being fair. This thing about being colourblind is still prevalent today, isn't it? A lot of white people say, but you're not like them. Can I give an example? Two examples actually. One, my sister, because she looks like a typical white-black mixed race woman. She has had a more of a what I call traditional racist experience. First time she straightened her hair, she was walking up the hill, and from the back, a bunch of skinheads started calling her Packy. So she turned around and says, "I'm not a Packy, I'm a fucking wog." That's the type of reaction we're getting. And then my brother, Don, who's the dreadlock guy that I showed you, he then appeared, and they said, "Oh, sorry, Don, we didn't realise it was you and your sister." That was so normal. People who were violently racist could have black friends. It was so strange. And things that really shocked me, when I went to Bristol in 1977, so between 77 and 80 in Bristol, I used to go to a couple of black clubs, and I remember going on the anti-racist march and stupidly thinking we're going to take the flags off the National Front, and I'd see them in the club next day. Actually, at the bar, I'd be looking at the guys who were, and there was have you heard of the Dugout?
Is this in Bristol?
In Bristol, yeah.
Okay.
It's a bit. The Dugout was a bit like the student black Brixton club. It's like a lot of you probably know that a lot of black clubs they like students, and students like them because one, because of the music, and secondly because they were good customers, So you'd be going and then you see these National Front skinheads in there. So that experience of Beefy and the film more generally about someone's got to fight back. I mean, the end scene is a classic one, isn't it? Where I clearly wanted to be with the cool guys. It's just had enough. I'd never been beaten up by the police, but that's how I felt, and that's what I knew happened, and that's what I felt was. The film was about, someone's got to make a stand. And
so why did you feel that way? If you're saying you hadn't kind of experienced directly, kind of sort of
The police hadn't. I've actually only been nicked a few times. I remember being on the Isle of Wight, being stopped, and then you knew they did it because of race. Because when they got a call about something serious, they said, "Oh, go off you go then." And so immediately, funny isn't it? There was only 3 guys there, 2 of us are not white, and you've picked us 3 from the school trip you went on. It was a drip, drip, drip of really bad racism. Things that people would say. We had the whole street, for example, against us once. We were literally in the front garden. We had the whole street of this is a road called Dunley Drive, which is a really long street. Just calling us names, horrible names. All little kids, 5 little kids, and they were all just. This is how I remember it. And some of them were my dad's friends or girlfriends, children.
So what year would that have been, in the 1960s?
No, that'd be 1970. I'm gonna say 71. So it's early 70s anyway. And that drip, drip, drip of just not, of I call it abuse, but some of it wasn't. It wasn't. I don't recall we were ever attacked personally. My sisters were. My brother Don thinks that he was. But it was just everywhere. It was against you. At school, I don't know if you remember, but you get these casual comments made by everyone, but certainly teachers. Good example, teachers. One that got me the first time I thought was really strange is that I saw walking down the corridor and somebody says, "Oi, Hawaii 5-0, take your earring out." And I was sort of thinking, I didn't know what he was on about, but I knew it was wrong. And then I sort of suddenly realised, he's referring to the Chinese guys in Hawaii 5-0. And I thought, yeah. Now looking back at it, clearly I would have challenged him had that happened now. But in those days, I was a 13-year-old kid, whatever it was, it just felt wrong. And the whole of the establishment seemed to didn't like people of colour. We were down in the pecking order, and Babylon represents that. There weren't many films. In fact, I'm struggling to think of films that captured the Britishness of that racist experience. Not at that time, anyway. And don't forget, the thing that was really powerful about it is there were young black men. They were me. They were of my generation. They were cool. They were hip. Even if they didn't, in reality, they weren't. But they were. And plus, I knew one of them was the singer. And he was cool. He just was cool, and the dreads, and it just really was cool. I can't tell you, but there's no one else standing up. Bob Marley was on an international stage, but they were the only 2 that had access. A lot of the other black musicians, they were talking the talk, but they didn't seem to have the ability to get the message out. And maybe I'm just talking about people who could influence the white power structure. I don't know.